Dante Williams wiped the sweat from his forehead as he pushed his cleaning cart down the long hallway of the Velian Imperial Academy. The marble floors gleamed under the soft blue lights, and everything looked perfect as always. But Dante didn't belong in this perfect world, and everyone knew it. The alien students floated past him like they were swimming through air. Their wings caught the light and made rainbow patterns on the walls. They laughed and talked in their musical voices, but they never looked at him. To them, he was just another human worker, invisible and unimportant. Dante had been cleaning these halls for 2 years now. He knew every corner, every room, every hiding spot in the massive academy. The Velian students came from the richest families in the galaxy. Their parents were senators, generals, and business owners who controlled entire star systems. Meanwhile, Dante was just trying to send money back to his sick mother on Earth Station 7. As he mopped near the old music hall, he heard something that made him stop. It wasn't the usual happy chatter of students or the sound of wings flapping. It was quiet crying, so soft he almost missed it. Dante looked around. The hallway was empty, but the crying was coming from inside the music hall. He knew he wasn't supposed to go in there during his shift, but something about the sound made his heart hurt. His grandmother used to cry like that when she thought no one was listening. He pushed open the heavy wooden door and stepped inside. The music hall was huge, with windows that reached all the way to the ceiling. Sunlight poured in from outside, where other students were practicing their flight dances in the courtyard. Their movements were beautiful, like a living painting in the sky. But sitting alone on a bench near the window was a young Velian girl. She couldn't have been more than 16 in human years. Her wings, which should have been spread wide and glowing, hung limp at her sides like broken umbrellas. She was watching the dancers outside with tears rolling down her pale blue cheeks. Dante had seen her before in the hallways. Her name was Kia, and she came from one of the most important families on the planet. But a few months ago, there had been an accident. A transport shuttle had crashed, and several students were hurt. Most had healed completely, but Kia's wings had been damaged so badly that she couldn't fly anymore. In Velian culture, not being able to fly was like being half dead. Their entire society was built around aerial grace and sky dances. Someone who couldn't fly couldn't participate in festivals, couldn't join in social events, and couldn't even hope to find love. Kia had gone from being one of the most popular students to being completely alone. Dante stood there for a moment, not sure what to do. He was just a human janitor. What could he possibly say to an alien princess who had lost everything? But then he remembered his grandmother's voice. Baby, when someone's hurting, you don't need fancy words. You just need to care. He walked over slowly, making sure his footsteps were loud enough that he wouldn't startle her. Hey there, miss. You doing okay? Kia looked up, surprised. Her amber eyes were wide and confused. Humans weren't supposed to talk to Velian students, especially not noble ones like her. For a second, Dante thought she might tell him to leave or report him to security. Instead, she wiped her tears and tried to sit up straighter. I am fine, human. You may continue your duties. But her voice cracked when she said it, and Dante could see she was anything but fine. He looked out the window at the dancing students, then back at her face. He recognized that look. It was the same expression his grandmother had when she watched other people walking in the park. My grandmother couldn't walk, Dante said quietly, sitting down on the bench beside her. He was breaking about 15 different rules, but he didn't care. Car accident took out her legs when she was young. But you know what? She taught me that dancing isn't just about moving your body from one place to another. Kia stared at him. What do you mean? She used to say that real dancing comes from in here. He tapped his chest. It's about feeling the music and letting it move through you. Doesn't matter if you're using your legs, your arms, or just your heart. If you feel it, you can dance it. For the first time in months, something like hope flickered in Kia's eyes. But I cannot fly. In our culture, dance is flight. Without wings, I am nothing. Dante smiled and stood up, extending his hand to her. Want me to show you something different? High above them, hidden cameras recorded everything. In her private office, Empress Nova leaned forward in her chair, watching the interaction with intense curiosity. She had never seen a human show such kindness to a Velian, especially not to nobility. What was this janitor planning to do? Every night after the academy fell quiet, Dante would slip back into the music hall through a side entrance he discovered during his cleaning rounds. Kia would already be there, waiting by the tall windows, her damaged wings folded carefully against her back. At first, she seemed nervous, constantly looking toward the doors as if expecting security guards to burst in at any moment. Relax, Dante would tell her with a gentle smile. I've been working here for 2 years. I know exactly when the patrols come through. The first lesson was awkward. Kia didn't understand how someone could dance without leaving the ground, and Dante had never tried to teach anyone, let alone an alien princess. But slowly, they found their rhythm. Feel the music first, Dante said, humming an old Earth song his grandmother used to love. Don't think about what you can't do. Think about what you can do. He showed her how to move her arms like flowing water, how to tell stories with her hands, how to express emotions through the curve of her spine. Kia was a quick learner. Her natural grace, developed through years of flight training, translated beautifully to ground-based movement. In my world, Dante explained as he demonstrated a spinning move, this represents joy breaking free from sadness. You don't need to fly to show that feeling. Kia tried the movement, her arms sweeping in elegant arcs. As she moved, something magical happened. Her skin began to glow with soft bioluminescent patterns, something she hadn't done since her accident. The light danced across the walls like living art. I had forgotten I could still do that, she whispered, staring at her glowing hands in wonder. Your people communicate through light, right? Dante asked. Show me what different patterns mean. And so their lessons became an exchange. Dante taught Kia earth dances adapted for someone who couldn't fly, while she shared the ancient art of Velian light speaking. She showed him how different colors meant different emotions, how the speed of the patterns conveyed urgency or calm, how the brightness revealed the depth of feeling. This pattern means friendship, Kia said, her arms creating spirals of golden light. And this one means hope. What about this? Dante asked, moving his arms in a pattern his grandmother had taught him for expressing gratitude. Kia watched carefully, then began to glow in soft blue waves. That is beautiful. In our language, it would mean gift freely given. As the weeks passed, their friendship deepened. They discovered they had more in common than either had expected. Both felt invisible in their own societies. Dante was overlooked because he was human and poor. Kia was ignored now because she couldn't fly. Both understood what it felt like to be treated as less than whole. Sometimes I think about running away, Kia admitted one evening as they practiced together. Maybe finding a planet where being different doesn't matter so much. I get that feeling, Dante replied. But running away doesn't solve anything. Trust me, I've thought about it plenty of times. During the day, changes began to show in Kia's behavior. Other students noticed she walked differently now, with more confidence. Her posture was straighter, her head held higher. She even started participating in classes again, something she hadn't done since her accident. How is Kia suddenly so present again? One of her former friends, Maya, whispered to another student during lunch. I heard she's been spending time in the old music hall, came the reply. Maybe she's finally accepting what happened to her. But some students weren't happy about Kia's transformation. Prince Malik, the Empress's younger brother who attended the academy, had always looked down on humans. He started asking questions about why the janitor was working such long hours. Meanwhile, in her private office, Empress Nova continued watching the security feeds with growing fascination. She found herself looking forward to the evening surveillance reports, curious to see what new developments would unfold between the unlikely pair. This human shows remarkable creativity, she murmured to herself, watching Dante help Kia perfect a movement that combined Earth-style arm choreography with Velian light displays. And the girl, she's becoming someone entirely new. Nova had ruled the Velian Empire for 15 years, always following tradition and protocol. She had never seen anyone challenge the established order so quietly and effectively. The human wasn't trying to cause trouble or make political statements. He was simply being kind to someone who needed help. But Nova also knew that kindness, especially across species lines, could be dangerous to the carefully maintained social structure of her empire. If other humans began to believe they were equals to Velians, it could lead to unrest or even rebellion. Still, she couldn't stop watching. There was something about Dante's genuine care for Kia that reminded Nova of feelings she thought she had lost long ago. When was the last time someone had shown her real kindness, not because of her title or power, but simply because she was a person who might need it? As the night sessions continued, both Dante and Kia grew bolder in their movements and more open in their conversations. Neither realized that their secret friendship was about to become the center of an empire-wide controversy that would change everything. The morning started like any other, but Dante could feel something was wrong the moment he walked into the academy. Security guards were stationed at every corner, their faces serious and alert. Students whispered in small groups, stealing glances at him as he passed with his cleaning cart. Commander Reeves, the head of Academy Security, was waiting for him near the supply closet. The tall Velian officer had never liked humans, and his expression today was colder than usual. "Janitor Williams," Reeves said, his voice sharp as broken glass. "You need to come with me. Now." Dante's heart started racing, but he tried to stay calm. "Is there a problem, sir? I haven't done anything wrong." "Haven't you?" Reeves pulled out a small device and pressed a button. A holographic screen appeared in the air, showing security footage from the music hall. There was Dante, teaching Kia how to dance. There was Kia, glowing with bioluminescent patterns as she moved. There they were, laughing together like old friends. 37 violations of the species interaction protocol, Reeves continued, counting on his fingers. Unauthorized entry into restricted areas. Inappropriate contact with nobility. Disruption of social order. Should I go on? Dante felt sick. He had known this might happen eventually, but seeing the footage made it real. "Sir, I was just trying to help her. She was sad, and I thought." "You thought wrong, human. You forgot your place." Reeves gestured to two guards who stepped forward. "Take him to holding cell 3. His transport back to the labor colonies leaves tonight." As they grabbed his arms, Dante saw Kia being escorted down the hallway by more guards. Her head was down, and she looked smaller than he had ever seen her. When their eyes met for a brief moment, he could see the fear and sadness there. "Kia," he called out, but the guards pulled him in the opposite direction. The holding cell was a small, gray room with one window that looked out onto the academy courtyard. Dante sat on the hard bench and watched Velian students go about their normal day, flying and laughing as if nothing had changed. But everything had changed, at least for him and Kia. Hours passed. Dante thought about his mother back on Earth Station 7, waiting for the money he sent home each month to pay for her medical treatments. He thought about his grandmother, who had taught him that helping others was always the right thing to do, even when it was hard. He wondered if she would be proud of him or disappointed that he had gotten caught. Just as the sun was starting to set, the cell door opened. But it wasn't a guard who walked in. It was Empress Nova herself, dressed in simple royal robes that still managed to look more expensive than anything Dante had ever seen. He jumped to his feet, not sure whether to bow or stand at attention. He had never been this close to actual royalty before. "Sit down, Dante Williams," Nova said, her voice surprisingly gentle. "We need to talk." "Your Majesty, I can explain." "No need," she interrupted, settling gracefully into the chair across from him. "I have been watching your interactions with Lady Kia for weeks. I know exactly what you have been doing." Dante's stomach dropped. If the Empress had been watching all along, why had she waited until now to stop them? "Are you going to punish her too?" Nova studied his face carefully. "You are more concerned about her welfare than your own fate. Interesting. Tell me, why did you help her?" The question caught Dante off guard. He had expected anger, threats, maybe even violence. He hadn't expected a conversation. "Because she needed help, Your Majesty. And because everyone deserves to feel like they matter, regardless of what they can or can't do. Even though helping her meant breaking our most sacred laws." "Your laws say that humans and Velians shouldn't be friends," Dante replied, finding courage he didn't know he had. "But they don't say anything about basic human kindness. At least, I hope they don't." Nova was quiet for a long moment, her violet eyes never leaving his face. When she finally spoke, her words were not what he expected. "In 3 days, we celebrate the Festival of Ascending Lights. It is our most important holiday, when the greatest dancers in the Empire perform before the Imperial Court. 10,000 nobles will gather to witness displays of aerial artistry that have been perfected over centuries." "That sounds beautiful, Your Majesty. I am going to offer you and Lady Kia a choice," Nova continued. "You can accept your punishments. You will return to the labor colonies, and she will be stripped of her noble title and sent to live in exile with distant relatives. Your lives will be quiet and safe, but unremarkable." Dante waited, sensing there was more. "Or," Nova said, leaning forward, "you can demonstrate this new form of dance you have created together. Before the entire Imperial Court. Before 10,000 of the most powerful beings in the galaxy." "But Your Majesty, if we fail?" "If you fail, the consequences will be far worse than exile. You will be imprisoned for life as an example to others who might think to challenge our traditions. And Kia, she will lose everything her family has built over generations." Dante's mouth went dry. And if we succeed? For the first time, Nova smiled. If you succeed, you might just change the way an entire empire thinks about what it means to be different. The next morning, Dante woke up in a room he didn't recognize. Instead of the cold holding cell, he found himself in comfortable quarters with actual furniture and a window that showed the academy gardens. For a moment, he wondered if everything had been a dream. Then the door opened, and Kia walked in. Her eyes were red from crying, but there was determination in her face that he hadn't seen before. "So we are really doing this," she said, sitting down across from him. "We are going to perform in front of the entire imperial court." "Are you sure about this?" Dante asked. "We could still choose exile. At least then we'd be safe." Kia shook her head. "I have been hiding and feeling sorry for myself for months. If we do nothing, other disabled Velians will continue to live the same way I have been living. Like they don't matter. Like they are broken. And you want to change that?" "We want to change that," she corrected. "This was your idea, remember? You showed me that being different doesn't mean being worthless." They had less than 3 days to create a performance that would either save them or destroy them completely. The pressure was enormous, but somehow, working together made it feel possible. The Empress had given them access to the grand rehearsal hall, a massive space with mirrors covering every wall. When they first walked in, Dante felt overwhelmed. The ceiling was so high that Kia could have flown around in circles if her wings still worked. "Let's start with what we know," Dante said, trying to sound more confident than he felt. "Show me the traditional dances your people do at the festival." Kia began moving, her feet staying on the ground but her arms recreating the patterns she would have made in the air. Even without flight, her movements were beautiful and full of meaning. Each gesture told part of an ancient story about Velian ancestors who first learned to fly. "Now show me how to make those same movements work for someone who stays on the ground," Dante said. They worked for hours, adapting and changing, discovering new ways to express old ideas. Dante taught Kia how to use her whole body to create the illusion of flight, how to make spinning turns that felt like soaring, how to use levels and timing to create drama without ever leaving the floor. On the second day, something unexpected happened. Other students started showing up to watch their practice sessions. Word had spread around the academy about what was happening, and curiosity was stronger than the rules about staying away. Maya, one of Kia's former friends, was the first to approach them during a break. "I heard about the performance," she said nervously. "Is it true that you're going to dance without flying?" "That's the plan," Kia replied, unsure how her old friend would react. Could you show me some of the moves? I have a cousin who lost her wings in the war, and she hasn't left her house in 2 years. Maybe if I could show her that dancing is still possible." Soon, other students were asking questions. Some had relatives with disabilities. Others were just curious about this new art form that combined human creativity with Velian traditions. By the end of the second day, a small group was learning modified movements alongside Kia and Dante. But not everyone was supportive. Prince Malik, who would inherit the throne after his sister, made his disapproval clear when he visited their practice session. "This is ridiculous," he announced, his golden wings spread wide in a display of authority. "You are making a mockery of our most sacred traditions. Dancing belongs in the sky, not crawling around on the ground like animals." "Your Highness," Dante said carefully, "we're not trying to replace traditional dancing. We're just showing that there are other ways to express the same feelings and stories." "Humans should not be explaining Velian culture to me," Malik snapped. "When this embarrassing display fails, I will make sure the punishment is severe enough that no one else gets similar ideas." After the prince left, Kia seemed shaken. Maybe he is right. Maybe we are being disrespectful. "Hey," Dante said, taking her hands. "Your stories and your culture are beautiful. We're not changing them. We're just finding new ways to share them. Your ancestors would be proud that their traditions are helping people who thought they were forgotten." On the third day, Empress Nova came to watch their final rehearsal. She sat quietly in the back of the hall while they ran through their complete performance. When they finished, she was silent for a long time. "You have created something I have never seen before," she finally said. "It honors our past while opening doors to our future. But I must tell you something that might change your mind about performing tomorrow." She paused, and Dante felt his heart skip a beat. "My brother has convinced several court nobles to attend with the specific intention of seeing you fail. They plan to use your performance as evidence that humans are corrupting Velian society. If you fail tomorrow, it will not just affect you too. It could lead to restrictions on all human workers in the Empire. The weight of responsibility settled on Dante's shoulders like a heavy blanket. They weren't just performing for themselves anymore. They were representing every human who had ever been treated as less than equal. "We won't let you down, Your Majesty," he said. "I believe you," Nova replied. "But belief may not be enough." The morning of the Festival of Ascending Lights dawned clear and bright, but Dante's hands were shaking as he got dressed. He had barely slept, going over their routine again and again in his mind. One mistake, one moment of weakness, and everything would be over. Kia met him outside the performer preparation rooms. She looked pale but determined, wearing a flowing dress that would move beautifully with their choreography. Her damaged wings were hidden beneath a ceremonial cloak that all ground-bound performers wore. "Ready to change the world?" she asked, trying to sound brave. "Ready to try," Dante replied, adjusting his simple black outfit. He looked nothing like the elaborate costumes worn by traditional Velian performers, but that was the point. They were representing something different. The Imperial Amphitheater was massive, carved directly into a mountainside with crystal walls that caught and reflected the morning light. As they walked through the backstage corridors, Dante could hear the crowd gathering outside. 10,000 voices created a low rumble that seemed to shake the very ground. Performers Williams and Kia, an official called out, "You are scheduled to perform directly after the traditional aerial ballet. That gives you about 30 minutes." Through a small window, they could see the aerial dancers warming up in the sky above the amphitheater. Their movements were breathtaking, like living poetry written in the air. For a moment, Dante wondered how their simple ground-based dance could possibly follow such magnificence. "Don't think about them," Kia said, noticing his worried expression. "Think about why we are here." As they waited, students from the academy began arriving backstage. Maya was there, along with several others who had learned their modified techniques. Even some who had been skeptical were there to offer support. "We wanted to wish you luck," Maya said. "Whatever happens out there, you have already changed things at the academy. Students are talking about inclusion and friendship in ways they never did before." But there were also hostile faces in the crowd. Prince Malik stood with a group of noble supporters, their expressions cold and disapproving. Dante could hear them whispering about maintaining proper order and teaching lessons to troublemakers. Finally, their moment arrived. The aerial ballet had finished to thunderous applause, and now the crowd was settling in for what many expected to be a disappointing spectacle. "Ladies and gentlemen of the Imperial Court," the announcer's voice echoed through the amphitheater, presenting an experimental performance combining traditional Velian culture with alternative movement techniques. The introduction was hardly inspiring, but Dante and Kia walked onto the crystal stage with their heads held high. The amphitheater fell silent. 10,000 pairs of eyes focused on the unlikely pair standing in the center of the vast space. Dante looked up at the crowd and felt overwhelmed. These were the most powerful beings in the galaxy, and most of them clearly expected this to be a disaster. In the royal box, he could see Empress Nova sitting perfectly still, her face revealing nothing. Then the music began, and everything else faded away. It started with Kia alone, moving slowly and gracefully through the opening movements that told the ancient story of the first Velian who learned to fly. But instead of ascending into the air, she created the illusion of flight through the careful positioning of her arms and the fluid movements of her entire body. As the story progressed, Dante joined her, representing the earth that called to the sky, the grounding force that gave flight its meaning. Their movements complemented each other perfectly, creating a visual conversation between two different ways of being in the world. The real magic began when Kia started to glow. Her bioluminescent patterns painted light across the stage, creating shapes and colors that had never been seen in traditional performances. The light seemed to dance independently, adding layers of meaning to every gesture. Halfway through the performance, something unexpected happened. Maya and several other academy students appeared at the edge of the stage. They had coordinated this in secret, wanting to show their support in the most public way possible. One by one, they joined the dance. Maya moved in her hover chair, creating beautiful patterns that complemented the ground-based choreography. Zion, whose asymmetrical wings made traditional flying impossible, added his own unique style to the growing ensemble. The performance became something bigger than anyone had planned. It was no longer just two individuals challenging tradition. It was a group of young people showing that beauty could be found in every form of movement, every type of ability. The crowd's reaction changed gradually. The initial skepticism gave way to curiosity, then amazement, then genuine appreciation. Some nobles began to lean forward in their seats, caught up in the story being told through movement and light. Prince Malik's expression grew darker as he watched his sister's face. Empress Nova was clearly moved by what she was seeing, tears reflecting the stage lights as they rolled down her cheeks. The performance reached its climax with all the dancers creating a living mandala on the stage, each person contributing their unique movement style to a larger pattern that represented unity in diversity. Kia and Dante stood at the center, their movements telling the final part of the story about how different worlds could come together to create something beautiful. When the music ended, the silence was deafening. For a moment that felt like forever, no one moved or spoke. Then Empress Nova rose from her throne. She began to clap, slowly and deliberately. The sound echoed through the amphitheater like thunder. One by one, other nobles stood and joined the applause. It started with a few, then dozens, then hundreds. Soon the entire amphitheater was on its feet, cheering for a performance that had shown them something they had never imagined possible. But the real change was yet to come.